The sun hung low over the alien market, casting long shadows across dusty streets crowded with creatures of all shapes and sizes. Stalls lined every corner, selling strange fruits that glowed faintly, mechanical trinkets that buzzed and whirred, and fabrics that shimmered like liquid metal. The air smelled of burnt spices and oil, and the chatter of haggling voices created a constant, chaotic hum. In the middle of it all, an old alien shuffled slowly, leaning heavily on a cracked walking stick. His skin was pale green, wrinkled and sagging with age, and his eyes, dim yet alert, darted nervously at the crowd moving past him. No one stopped to greet him. No one offered help. He reached a small stall that sold jars of glowing liquid. His clawed hands trembled as he picked up one of the jars. The vendor, a tall alien with scales covering half his face, barely glanced at the old alien. Next, the vendor barked to the line forming behind him. The old alien's shoulders slumped. He put the jar back and shuffled toward a small fruit stand, hoping for a different reaction. Nearby, a human stepped into the market. He was tall, wearing simple clothes that were slightly dusty from travel, and carried a small satchel. His eyes widened at the sight of the market's chaos. The colors, the noise, the strange shapes of the aliens around him. He moved slowly, taking in the scene, until his gaze fell on the old alien struggling to lift a bag of food. The old alien's hands shook as he tried to balance the weight. He stumbled, and the bag tipped, spilling its contents, strange fruits rolling across the dusty ground. The crowd parted quickly, not to help, but to avoid him. Some aliens snickered. Others pretended not to notice. The old alien bent over slowly, picking up the scattered fruits, his breathing shallow and ragged. The human stepped forward instinctively, feeling a tug in his chest. "Do you need help?" the human asked, his voice careful, unsure if this was acceptable in a place where humans were rarely seen. The old alien looked up, startled. He wasn't used to someone speaking to him kindly. I can manage," he said weakly, though the quiver in his voice betrayed his words. The human ignored that, kneeling to help pick up the last few fruits. As he handed them to the old alien, he noticed the man's ragged clothing and worn shoes. The old alien's eyes shone with a mixture of gratitude and embarrassment. "I'm fine now," the old alien said, but there was no strength behind it. His arms shook, and the human saw the strain in his movements. The vendor at the fruit stall glared at the old alien, muttering something under his breath about late payments. The human frowned, sensing the tension. "Is everything all right?" he asked, looking at the vendor. The vendor waved him off, not hiding the irritation in his eyes. "It is none of your concern," he said, his voice harsh. The human realized quickly that no one here cared about the old alien. The market was full of creatures who were too busy with their own deals and trades to notice a single struggling individual. The old alien finally gathered his bag and leaned heavily on his walking stick. His eyes scanned the market, searching for a quiet corner or a friendly face. There was none. Every time he looked around, he felt smaller, more invisible, like a shadow in the crowd. The human, watching closely, felt a spark of determination. He didn't understand this alien's life or the dangers he might face, but he knew he couldn't leave him alone in the middle of this indifferent market. The old alien started toward a small, run-down stall near the edge of the market. It sold simple food, bread that looked dry and water in small vials. He shuffled along slowly, glancing nervously at the other shoppers who moved past him without recognition. The human followed quietly, keeping a safe distance, observing the wary movements of the old alien. When the old alien reached the stall, he placed a few coins on the counter. The vendor barely looked at him, counting the coins with quick, impatient movements. "That will do," the vendor said without a smile, shoving a small sack of bread toward him. The old alien nodded, too tired to protest, and slowly picked up his bag, preparing to leave. The human approached the counter and placed a hand lightly on the old alien's arm. "Wait," he said softly. "I can help with that." The old alien turned, surprised, and looked into the human's eyes. There was a flicker of hope there, almost fragile, as if he hadn't expected kindness in years. The human reached into his own satchel and offered some coins. "Let me pay this for you," he said simply. The market seemed to pause for a moment. Shoppers continued their routines, but the air around the old alien shifted. For the first time that day, someone noticed him, not as a problem, not as a nuisance, but as a being who mattered. The old alien's eyes widened, and a soft, almost inaudible whisper escaped his lips. "Thank you?" The human smiled gently, feeling the weight of the moment. In a market full of indifference, he had made a difference. As they walked slowly through the crowded streets, the old alien leaning heavily on his stick, the human stayed close, vigilant. Something about this old alien seemed important, though he couldn't yet understand why. The crowd moved around them, oblivious, and the strange, bustling noise of the market continued. But for these two, a small connection had been made, a spark of humanity shining through the chaos. And somewhere deep in the old alien's eyes, a secret flickered, one that could change everything for both of them, though the human could not yet guess what it might be. The journey had only just begun, and the market, with all its noise and color, had become the place where an unexpected story was about to unfold. The old alien and the human moved slowly through the busy streets of the market. The old alien's bag hung heavy on his arm, his hands trembling with the weight. The human noticed every step, careful not to rush him, yet keeping an eye on the crowd. Strange creatures passed by, some with multiple arms, others with wings or glowing eyes. No one stopped or offered help. The old alien glanced nervously at the human and whispered, You didn't have to do this." "No one ever helps me." The human smiled faintly. "Everyone needs help sometimes," he said, his voice calm but firm. "It's nothing." The old alien's eyes flickered, a mix of surprise and uncertainty. He had lived many years, seen countless people and creatures, yet none had offered such simple kindness. The human's gesture seemed small, but to the old alien, it carried weight heavier than any object he had ever carried. They reached a narrow alley lined with stalls selling rare tools and glowing crystals. The old alien paused, glancing over his shoulder. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the crowd. There were 3 large aliens, cloaked in dark garments, lingering near the exit of the alley. Their faces were hidden, but their body language spoke of malice. The human noticed them too, a chill running down his spine. He stepped slightly in front of the old alien, shielding him without saying a word. The old alien's voice was low, almost a hiss. They are following me." The human nodded, his hand tightening around the strap of his satchel. "Then we keep moving." "Don't let them see fear," he whispered. The alley grew darker, shadows stretching across the walls. Strange smells filled the air. Burnt metal and something sweet, like alien honey, mingled together. The old alien's steps grew slower, his breathing shallow. The human stayed close, noticing every tremor in the old alien's hands, every hesitation in his step. It was clear that this old alien carried more than just a bag. He carried secrets, burdens heavier than the market itself. As they reached the end of the alley, one of the cloaked figures stepped forward, blocking their path. The old alien froze. The figure's voice was low and harsh, a language the human did not understand, yet the tone needed no translation. Threat. Danger. The human moved quickly, placing himself between the old alien and the figure. "Let him go," the human said, his voice steady. The cloaked alien laughed, a deep, rumbling sound. He reached into his cloak, revealing a small, strange weapon that hummed with energy. The other 2 cloaked aliens flanked him, their movements sharp and coordinated. The old alien's eyes widened, fear and desperation mixing in his gaze. The human's mind raced. He did not understand the weapon, but he understood the danger. He grabbed a metal rod from a nearby stall, swinging it to create a distraction. Sparks flew as the rod struck the ground near the cloaked figure. The aliens hissed in surprise, giving the human enough time to grab the old alien's arm and pull him forward. They ran. The narrow streets twisted and turned, crowded with oblivious shoppers. The old alien struggled to keep pace, leaning heavily on his stick. The human adjusted his grip, steadying the alien, urging him onward. "Keep moving," he said, not looking back, though he could feel the presence of the cloaked figures behind them. Finally, they reached a quiet courtyard, hidden between tall buildings. The old alien collapsed onto a bench, breathing hard, his face pale and glistening with sweat. The human crouched beside him, checking for injuries. "You're safe here for now," he said, though his words offered little comfort against the lingering threat. The old alien's hands shook as he reached into his bag, pulling out a small metallic device. He examined it nervously before turning to the human. They want this," he whispered. "It is dangerous in the wrong hands. I cannot let them have it." The human looked at the device. It was small, no larger than his hand, but it emitted a faint glow, pulsing rhythmically. He had never seen anything like it. "What is it?" he asked, though he already sensed the answer. This was no ordinary object. It held power, secrets, perhaps even life itself. The old alien shook his head. "It is not for your understanding yet, but they will kill to take it. I have no one left, no one to protect me." His voice broke, revealing a vulnerability that the human did not expect. The human's mind raced. He had come to this market seeking simple trade, curiosity, maybe a small adventure. He had not expected danger, betrayal, or responsibility of this magnitude. Yet, looking at the old alien, at the trembling creature who had carried burdens for so long alone, he felt a surge of determination. "Then I will help," he said. "We'll keep it safe, together." The old alien looked at him, disbelief and cautious hope mingling in his eyes. No one had ever offered him such trust, such bravery. The human smiled faintly, resting a reassuring hand on the alien's shoulder. Outside, the market continued its noisy chaos, but inside the courtyard, a fragile bond formed. The old alien had survived years of indifference, of avoidance, of threats too numerous to count. Now, for the first time in decades, he had someone who cared, someone willing to act, someone willing to stand between him and the danger he could not face alone. The human and the old alien sat in silence for a moment, catching their breath. The sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across the courtyard, hiding corners where danger could still lurk. The human's gaze shifted to the market entrance, alert, aware that the cloaked figures were still out there. The old alien finally spoke, his voice soft but firm. You may not understand, human, but your choice today, it has changed everything. I will owe you more than you know." The human nodded, feeling the weight of the promise. He had helped an old alien in a market full of apathy. He had stepped into danger, blindly trusting that his instincts were right. And now, as shadows lengthened and the market's distant noise faded into the evening, he realized that this encounter was only the beginning. Something larger was coming, something that would test courage, trust, and the fragile bond between a human and an alien who had been alone for too long. The old alien clutched the small device to his chest, eyes scanning every corner. The human remained vigilant, ready to act at a moment's notice. Between them, an unspoken understanding passed, a promise that they would face whatever came next together, and that the old alien's days of suffering in silence were finally over. The human led the old alien through a narrow side street, the market noises fading behind them. The air smelled of burnt metal and spices, a strange mix that reminded the old alien of home, though long gone. His legs were tired, his joints stiff, but he followed closely, trusting the human more than anyone in decades. Every step they took felt heavy with the memory of being ignored, of being left alone when help was needed most. "They won't follow us here, will they?" The old alien asked, voice trembling. His eyes darted from shadow to shadow, expecting danger at every turn. "They might, but we'll be ready," the human said calmly. His hands brushed the edge of the old alien's cloak, guiding him carefully through the uneven ground. "You need to keep the device safe. Nothing else matters right now." The old alien clutched the small metallic box close, feeling its hum beneath his fingers. It was old technology, rare and powerful, the kind people would kill for. He had hidden it for years, guarding it alone, but now someone was protecting him. The human was different from all the others. He had not demanded payment or offered empty promises. He had acted. A sudden clang of metal echoed from a nearby alley, and the old alien jumped. The human's eyes flicked toward the sound, sharp and alert. Figures emerged, cloaked and moving swiftly, their weapons glowing faintly in the dim light. The human stepped in front of the old alien, forming a protective barrier. "Stay behind me," he said. "Do not let them touch you." The old alien nodded, trembling, and took a step back. One of the attackers lunged, aiming directly at the old alien. The human swung a metal rod he had picked up, deflecting the attack with a forceful strike. Sparks flew, and the old alien stumbled, heart racing. The human grabbed his arm, steadying him. "You must stay close," the human said, eyes scanning the attackers. "They are fast, but we are faster if we move together." They ran down a side passage, twisting and turning, the old alien struggling to keep up, but not daring to slow down. Every alley, every shadow seemed to hide danger, but the human's presence gave him courage. He realized he had not felt safe like this in decades, not since his youth when he had been part of an honorable crew. Suddenly, the attackers blocked the passage ahead. The old alien froze, panic rising. "We're trapped," he whispered. The human's eyes narrowed. "Not yet. Watch me." He scanned the area, then kicked a crate toward the attackers. It crashed to the ground, scattering small pieces of scrap. The attackers paused, momentarily distracted. The human grabbed the old alien and ran along a narrow ledge above the crates, pulling him carefully. They moved silently, the old alien's breath loud in his ears. He realized how much he had depended on others before and how often it had failed him. Yet now, someone had risked everything for him. The human's hands were steady, his movements precise, and the old alien followed instinctively. As they reached a higher alley, the old alien's knees shook. He looked down at the dark street below, where shadows of their pursuers flickered. I can't go further," he said, voice breaking. The human crouched beside him. "Yes, you can. I will not let you fall. One step at a time." With careful guidance, the human helped the old alien move along the ledge, each step slow but deliberate. The old alien's heart pounded, fear and trust mixing in a strange, unfamiliar way. He had always been alone, abandoned by those he trusted. But now, in the presence of this human, he felt a sense of hope he had long forgotten. They reached a small rooftop, the metal warm beneath their feet. The old alien collapsed for a moment, catching his breath. The human stayed close, keeping watch. "We are not safe yet," he said quietly, "but we are closer than before." The old alien looked at him, eyes wide. "Why? Why are you helping me?" "Because it is right," the human said simply. "Because someone has to stand when others run. Because you deserve it." The old alien's chest tightened. No one had ever spoken to him like this. Not friends, not allies, not even strangers. He had been invisible for so long, but this human had seen him. Truly seen him. A faint hum from the device reminded them of the danger still present. The human carefully checked the device, making sure it was secure. "We move at night," he said. "The shadows will help us, but we must be alert." The old alien nodded, gripping the device tightly. He realized that the journey ahead would not be easy, that danger lurked in every corner. But for the first time in decades, he felt a strange sense of strength. Not in his body, which was old and tired, but in the trust he had in someone else. They waited for the sun to set, the city quieting around them. The humans scanned the streets, making sure the path was clear. The old alien followed silently, each sound, each movement sharpening his senses. He had learned to survive alone, but now he was learning something new, that survival was stronger when shared. When the night came, they moved again, slipping through shadows and avoiding patrols. The old alien's heart beat fast, but it was no longer just fear. It was determination. He was alive because someone had chosen to care, to act, to fight for him. That thought gave him courage he had not known he possessed. Step by step, alley by alley, they made their way through the city, closer to safety, closer to a future where the old alien was no longer alone. He realized that help could come in unexpected forms, that courage could appear in someone younger, smaller, seemingly ordinary, and that sometimes hope could be found in the most unlikely companion, a human who had decided that one alien's life was worth everything. The human and the old alien moved cautiously through the dimly lit streets beyond the market. The air smelled of metal and smoke, and the distant hum of engines and chatter faded as they entered quieter parts of the city. The old alien's steps were slow, each movement deliberate, but there was a tension in his shoulders, a constant wariness in his eyes. He glanced behind them often, worried that the cloaked figures would have tracked them this far. "Are they far behind us?" The human asked softly, keeping his voice low. I do not know," the old alien replied, his voice trembling slightly. "They have eyes everywhere. They can appear when you least expect." The human nodded. He had sensed the danger earlier, but now it felt heavier, more real. Every shadow seemed to move, every corner a potential threat. Yet he did not hesitate. He kept close to the old alien, adjusting his pace to match the alien's careful steps. They reached a narrow bridge that arched over a shallow, polluted river. The water shimmered faintly in the dim light, reflecting the strange colors of the surrounding city. The old alien stopped abruptly, gripping his walking stick tightly. "This is not safe," he whispered. "They often wait here, in the shadows." The human scanned the area. his eyes sharp. He saw the faint outline of movement, a glimmer of metal, a shadow shifting near the side of the bridge. His instincts told him they were being watched and possibly followed. He moved slightly in front of the old alien, positioning himself between the bridge and any threat that might emerge. The old alien's eyes widened. Why? Why do you protect me? He asked quietly, almost afraid of the answer. Because it's the right thing, the human said. No one should be alone when danger comes. The old alien looked at him, a mixture of surprise and gratitude washing over his face. He had lived long years and seen countless betrayals, cold stares, and avoidance. Kindness like this was rare. It made him feel exposed and vulnerable, but also hopeful. They stepped onto the bridge carefully, each plank creaking under their combined weight. The human's eyes scanned every shadow, every movement, looking for anything unusual. Halfway across, a soft rustling echoed from the side. The human stiffened, moving closer to the old alien. Suddenly, two figures emerged from the shadows. Their cloaks shimmered in the faint light, and strange weapons glinted in their hands. The old alien froze, fear etched deep into his face. "Step aside," one of the cloaked figures said in a low, threatening voice. "Give us the device, now." The human's grip tightened on the walking stick he had picked up earlier. "You will not harm him," he said firmly. The cloaked figure laughed, a sound that made the human's skin crawl. "You think you can stop us, human? This is beyond your strength." The old alien's hands shook as he clutched the small metallic device to his chest. Take it from me if you can," he whispered, "but do not let him." He stopped, fear cutting his words short. The human stepped forward, placing himself fully between the old alien and the attackers. "You will not get it. I won't let you," he said. His voice carried determination, and though the attackers did not know him, they sensed his resolve. The two cloaked figures advanced, weapons raised. The human swung the stick, hitting one of the figure's legs. Sparks flew as the weapon's energy blade met the metal rod. The figure hissed in pain and anger. The human pivoted, blocking another strike aimed at the old alien. He could feel the energy from the weapons, see the deadly intent in every movement. The old alien watched in awe. He had expected death, chaos, or capture, yet here was this human, calm, brave, standing in the face of danger without hesitation. His heart raced, not just with fear, but with a strange admiration. One of the cloaked figures lunged at the old alien, but the human intercepted, swinging the stick with all his strength. It connected, knocking the figure off balance. The old alien stumbled backward, almost falling, but the human caught his arm and steadied him. "You must hold the device tightly," the human shouted. The old alien nodded, gripping the metallic device as if it were his life itself. The human moved quickly, using the stick to block attacks, pushing them back step by step. Sparks flew, shadows danced across the bridge, and the sound of clashing weapons echoed through the empty streets below. Finally, the cloaked figures paused, hissing in frustration. The human used the moment, grabbing the old alien's hand. "Run!" he shouted. They sprinted across the remaining length of the bridge, hearts pounding, breaths short. The old alien stumbled once, nearly losing his balance, but the human's grip was firm, unwavering. Behind them, the attackers recovered, but by now the human and the old alien had disappeared into a narrow side street, shadows swallowing them. They slowed to a cautious walk, catching their breaths. The old alien's face was pale, but his eyes shone with a strange mix of fear and awe. You saved me," he whispered, almost disbelieving. The human shook his head. "No, you saved yourself. I just helped a little." The old alien studied him closely. "No human has ever done this for me. No one." He paused, clutching the device. I owe you more than you know." The human smiled faintly. "Then we stay together. We keep it safe, one step at a time." The city stretched around them, silent and uncertain, shadows hiding dangers yet unseen. But for the first time, the old alien felt that maybe, just maybe, he was not completely alone. With the human by his side, there was a chance, a spark of hope that had been missing for decades. The two continued down the narrow streets, cautious, alert, and united in purpose. The old alien carried the weight of his past and the device in his hands, while the human carried determination, courage, and a promise. No matter what came next, they would face it together. The human and the old alien moved through the twisting streets, each step cautious, each sound amplified in the silence of the alleyways. The city seemed to close in around them, buildings looming like silent watchers. The old alien clutched the glowing device tightly, his knuckles white, his hands trembling despite the human's steady grip on his arm. "They will not stop," the old alien said quietly, fear and resignation in his voice. "They want it more than life itself." The human glanced at him, eyes narrowing. "Then we make sure they never get it," he said. His tone was calm, but it carried weight. The old alien's eyes widened at the resolve he saw. He had expected more words, empty promises. Instead, this human acted, already thinking steps ahead, already planning defense and escape. They turned a corner and entered a narrow corridor filled with old, abandoned stalls. Broken crates and dusty crates littered the ground. It smelled of rust, old spices, and something bitter he could not name. The old alien paused, leaning heavily on his stick. "This place, it is cursed. Many tried to hide here. None survived." The human put a hand on his shoulder. "We survive. Together," he said. The old alien gave a small nod, though his eyes darted around nervously. Every shadow seemed alive, every creak in the floor a threat. Suddenly, a loud hiss echoed through the corridor. The old alien froze. The human's instincts kicked in. He scanned the shadows, spotting movement in the darkness. Two cloaked figures emerged from behind crates, their energy weapons glowing faintly. Their eyes glinted with malice. "Hand over the device," one of them demanded, voice low and threatening. The old alien's grip tightened around the small metallic object. "Never," he whispered, his voice almost lost in the tense air. The human stepped forward, placing himself directly between the attackers and the old alien. "You will not touch him," he said firmly. His eyes met theirs, unwavering. The cloaked figures advanced, weapons raised, each movement precise and threatening. The human grabbed a nearby metal pipe, swinging it with practiced force. Sparks flew as it collided with one of the attacker's energy weapons. The figure hissed, stepping back, momentarily thrown off balance. The old alien's heart raced. He had expected death. He had expected betrayal or weakness. Instead, he saw courage, raw and fierce, in this human who had done nothing but extend simple kindness. It was shocking, almost unbelievable. His hand shook as he held the device, unsure if he should fight or run, but trusting the human to guide him. One of the cloaked figures lunged forward, aiming directly at the old alien. The human reacted instantly, swinging the pipe to intercept the attack. The weapon clashed with a flash of light, throwing both the human and the attacker off balance. The old alien stumbled, but was caught by the human's strong grip. "Stay close," the human shouted, breathing heavy but steady. The corridor felt tighter, the shadows longer, the danger more real with each passing second. The old alien followed, stepping over crates and broken boards, his legs weak but determined. He realized something profound. This human was not just helping him. He was fighting for him, putting himself in harm's way without hesitation, without expectation of reward. The old alien had lived for decades, seen countless humans and aliens alike, yet none had shown this courage, this loyalty. The cloaked figures regrouped, their movements quick and calculated. One moved toward the device, aiming to snatch it from the old alien's trembling hands. The human spun, blocking the attack with the pipe, then used his shoulder to push the attacker back. The old alien stumbled again, but this time he did not fall. He began to understand that he was not alone. He had an ally, a protector, someone willing to risk everything for him. The human glanced around and spotted a small doorway leading into a dimly lit storage room. "Quick, in there," he shouted. The old alien followed without hesitation, trusting the human's judgment completely. They slipped inside, the door sliding shut behind them, muffling the sounds of pursuit. Inside, the room was cramped and dusty, filled with old crates and forgotten tools. The human leaned against the wall, catching his breath while keeping his eyes on the door. The old alien sat on a broken crate, clutching the device, his hands shaking but steadying slowly. You could have stayed back," the old alien said finally, awe and disbelief in his voice. "You could have run. Why? Why did you risk yourself?" The human shook his head. "Because someone has to stand up when others run. Because someone has to help. And because I could not let them take this from you." The old alien stared at him, seeing more than words could express. He had been alone for so long, abandoned by those who should have cared. Yet this human, a stranger, had stepped into his world, into his danger, without hesitation, offering protection and courage. It was a gift he could not fully comprehend, but one he would never forget. A faint hum echoed from the device, reminding them both of the urgency. The human rose, steadying himself. We need to move again. They will not stop, and neither can we. The old alien nodded, standing with difficulty but determination. For the first time in decades, he felt hope, not just for survival, but for trust, for companionship, for someone who saw value in him when the rest of the universe ignored his existence. Together, they moved toward the next exit, alert, ready for whatever awaited them. Each step was heavy with danger, yet lightened by the bond forming between human and alien. Whatever came next, they knew they would face it side by side. No one had helped the old alien before, but now, with this human, he felt something he had not felt in years. Safety, courage, and the beginning of trust that could carry him through anything. The sounds of pursuit echoed faintly outside, reminding them that their journey was far from over. Yet within the small, dimly lit storage room, the old alien and the human shared an unspoken promise. They would not falter, they would not surrender, and together, they would protect what was precious at all costs. The narrow streets stretched ahead like a maze, twisting and turning in ways that made the human senses sharper. He moved with purpose, guiding the old alien through alleys that smelled of rust and old machinery. The city was silent, almost too silent, except for the distant hum of engines and the faint echo of their footsteps. Every shadow seemed to watch them. Every corner held potential danger. "Are we safe yet?" the old alien asked, his voice shaky, gripping the metallic device tightly. His eyes darted from shadow to shadow, haunted by the memories of those who had once betrayed him. "We will be safe if we keep moving," the human replied, voice calm but firm. "We can't stop now. They will follow if we linger." The old alien nodded, trusting the human's judgment more than he had trusted anyone in decades. His steps were slower, cautious, but he matched the human's pace as best he could. The human glanced over his shoulder, scanning the street for any sign of their pursuers. Suddenly, a loud clatter echoed from a nearby alley. Both froze. The old alien's breath caught, and he gripped the device closer to his chest. From the darkness, a small group of cloaked figures emerged, their energy weapons glowing faintly in the dim light. The human's stance shifted instantly, ready to defend. "Give it up, old one of the figures said, voice low and threatening. "The device belongs to us." The old alien shook his head. "Never," he whispered, fear and determination mixing in his voice. The human stepped closer, putting himself directly between the attackers and the old alien. "You will not touch him. I won't allow it," he said firmly, gripping a heavy pipe he had found earlier. The cloaked figures advanced, moving with swift, calculated steps. Sparks flew as the human swung the pipe at one of them, deflecting an energy blade aimed at the old alien. The clash sent a shockwave through the small street, and the old alien stumbled backward, nearly losing his balance. The human caught him just in time. "You must hold it tight," the human shouted, pointing at the device. "It's our only chance." The old alien's hands shook, but he nodded, gripping the device as if it were his life. The human's eyes never left the attackers, analyzing their movements, predicting their strikes. Each swing, each block, each pivot was precise, calculated, and deadly. The old alien watched, awe mixing with fear. He had lived through wars, betrayals, and countless dangers, yet nothing compared to the courage he saw in this human. One attacker lunged toward the old alien, but the human intercepted, swinging the pipe with all his strength. The force knocked the figure off balance, giving them a brief moment of reprieve. The old alien took a shaky step forward, heart racing, realizing that this human truly would not let anything happen to him. "Move," the human shouted, pulling the old alien toward a narrow staircase leading to an elevated walkway. They climbed quickly, the old alien's legs trembling, but he held on, trusting the human completely. Behind them, the attackers recovered, their shouts echoing in the street below. But the height gave the human and the old alien an advantage. At the top, the walkway was narrow, with metal grates underfoot and rusted railings on either side. The old alien hesitated, afraid of the heights, but the human stayed close, his presence a steady anchor. "Don't look down," the human said quietly. "Just follow me." The old alien swallowed, gripping the device tightly, and took a deep breath. He followed the human's lead, step by step, feeling the tension of the chase mix with a strange sense of trust he had not felt in years. Each movement was deliberate, careful, but determined. Halfway across the walkway, a section of the railing gave way with a loud crack. The old alien froze, panic rising in his chest. The human reacted instantly, grabbing his arm and pulling him back from the edge. "You're okay. Keep going," the human said firmly, his grip unwavering. The old alien nodded, breathing heavily, his eyes wide but focused. He began to understand that fear alone could not control him. He had someone who would fight for him, protect him, and never let him fall. They reached the end of the walkway and slipped into an abandoned warehouse, the door creaking as they entered. Inside, it was dark, filled with crates and old machinery. The air smelled of oil and dust, but it was quiet, safer than the streets outside. The old alien sank onto a crate, exhausted, holding the device close. Why are you helping me?" he asked, voice trembling. The human leaned against a nearby wall, catching his breath. "Because it's right," he said simply. "Because someone has to stand up when others run. And because I couldn't let them take this from you." The old alien looked at him, eyes wide, heart racing. He had been alone for decades, ignored, avoided, and sometimes hunted. No one had ever risked themselves for him like this human was doing now. It was a revelation, almost too overwhelming to process. A faint hum from the device reminded them both of the danger still present. The human stood, scanning the warehouse for exits, escape routes, and threats. The old alien followed slowly, understanding that their journey was far from over, but trusting that together they could face whatever came next. The shadows outside seemed to pause, as if waiting, but inside the warehouse, a quiet determination settled between them. The old alien realized that help had come in the most unexpected form. Not a human who demanded payment, not a stranger who passed by, but one who chose to stay, to fight, and to protect. They would continue forward, step by step, careful but unyielding. The danger was not gone, but with each passing moment, the old alien felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. And hope, he realized, could be stronger than fear. The warehouse was silent, except for the soft hum of the device. The old alien sat on a crate, clutching it as if it were the last piece of his life. His body ached from the chase, from the fear, and from the years of loneliness that had weighed on him like a heavy chain. The human crouched beside him, inspecting the small metallic object with care, his eyes sharp and calculating. "We need to get this to safety," the human said quietly, voice steady. "If they catch us again, it's over." The old alien nodded, his hands trembling. "I don't know where to go. Everyone has turned their backs on me for years. Why? Why are you different?" The human looked at him, eyes calm but serious. "Because I choose to be. Not everyone is cruel. Not everyone abandons when it is easy. Some of us stand." The old alien's heart tightened. He had heard these words before, but never meant for him. He had been ignored, pushed aside, forgotten. Yet here was a human who risked everything, who had fought through shadows and danger simply because it was the right thing to do. A sudden crash echoed from outside the warehouse. The human rose instantly, pulling the old alien up with him. "They found us," he said. His voice was low but urgent, commanding. The old alien's legs shook, but he followed, trusting the human completely. They moved through the maze of crates, shadows stretching like claws across the walls. The human held the device carefully, making sure it was protected, while the old alien stayed close, leaning on him when necessary. From a small window, they could see movement outside, figures cloaked in darkness, weapons glinting faintly in the dim light. The human's jaw tightened. "We have to create a distraction. Follow me." He ran to a pile of old barrels and kicked them over. The crash was loud, echoing through the empty streets. Sparks flew as one barrel struck an exposed wire, sending a small burst of electricity across the floor. The cloaked figures outside hesitated, surprised by the sudden noise. "Now!" the human shouted. He grabbed the old alien's arm and pulled him toward a hidden door at the back of the warehouse. They slipped through just as the attackers recovered from the distraction. The old alien stumbled, but the human caught him, steadying him with a firm grip. The hidden door led to a narrow tunnel, dark and musty. The old alien's breathing was heavy, his heart pounding in his chest. How do we know we will survive?" he asked, voice shaking. The human glanced back, eyes serious. "We survive because we don't give up. We survive because we move, and we survive because we trust each other. They moved silently through the tunnel, each step careful but determined. The old alien watched the human, realizing that this was more than just courage. It was loyalty, commitment, and something he had long forgotten: hope. Every step they took together reinforced that trust, that bond, that promise of safety. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a small clearing, lit by dim streetlights. The human paused, scanning for threats. The old alien followed his gaze, tense and alert. They were exposed, but it was their only chance to move faster, to get the device to safety. As they ran across the clearing, the attackers appeared at the far end, moving quickly toward them. The human picked up the pace, pulling the old alien along. "Almost there," he shouted. "Just a little farther." They reached a narrow bridge spanning a deep ravine. The old alien froze, fear gripping him as he looked down at the dark chasm below. The human grabbed his arm. "We cross together, step by step. Trust me." The old alien took a deep breath and followed. Each step was careful, the old metal bridge creaking beneath their weight. He felt the human's steady presence beside him, guiding him, protecting him. It was the first time in years that he had felt safe, not just physically, but completely safe. Halfway across, a shot rang out. Sparks flew as a weapon struck the bridge near their feet. The old alien froze, but the human didn't hesitate. He pushed the old alien forward, using his own body as a shield. The attackers shouted, but the human's determination was stronger. He moved with speed and precision, blocking attacks, keeping them both alive. Finally, they reached the other side. The old alien fell to his knees, exhausted, heart racing. The human knelt beside him, handing him water and checking the device. "We made it," he said simply. The old alien looked at him, eyes filled with gratitude, disbelief, and relief. I don't know how to thank you," he whispered. "No one has ever done this for me before." The human smiled, a small, tired smile. "You don't need to thank me. You just need to survive. That is enough." The old alien's hands shook as he held the device, feeling its warmth and energy. He realized that it was not just a machine. It was hope, survival, and a new beginning. He had been alone, abandoned, and ignored. But now, because of this human, he had a chance. A chance to live, to trust, to be more than just a forgotten figure in the galaxy. The human stood, placing a reassuring hand on the old alien's shoulder. "We're not done yet. There's still work to do, but we face it together. You're not alone anymore." For the first time in decades, the old alien believed it. The danger was not over, but he felt strength he hadn't felt before. The human had fought, had risked everything, and had given him something priceless: the certainty that someone cared, that someone would not leave him behind. Together, they moved into the night, each step carrying them further from danger, closer to safety, and into a future that neither of them had expected, but both were willing to fight for. The city loomed ahead, full of shadows and threats, yet the old alien no longer felt fear alone. He had a protector, a friend, a human who had paid more than a bill. He had paid with courage, loyalty, and heart. And that was priceless.